All right, good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another short war summary. And today we have some pretty interesting news coming out of Ukraine about Prigozhin, as well as some more news about that situation around Romania with the Russian drone going in and blowing up in their territory. So we have some pretty big news on that. So let's go ahead and jump right into our first piece of news. And this is from Nexta. It says Ukrainian intelligence is not sure of Prigozhin's death, and quote unquote, now 100%. We can confirm the death of Utkin and several other associates of Prigozhin, but as for the PMC chief himself, I think we need to wait some more time, said a representative of the main directorate of intelligence of Ukraine, Andrei Yusov. Now, obviously, this is a pretty big deal because a lot of conspiracy theories have been going around that Prigozhin might actually still be alive, even though his jet, with allegedly him on the passenger list, did crash, killing Utkin and several other Wagner associates. Now, Prigozhin himself, he may or may not have been on that jet. That is what Ukraine is saying right now, that they cannot confirm for a fact. So the conspiracy theory might still yet be alive that Prigozhin might not have died in the crash. So quite interesting to hear, to say the least. And moving on to our next post here, we are moving back to the situation around Romania. We have gotten some pretty big news about that today. It says Romania's defense minister Angel Tavar confirms that the authorities today have found fragments of a suspected Russian drone around 100 meters away from the border with Ukraine. And the question in this post is it time for NATO to use Article 4? That's a pretty big question, and also we do have some more news about that particular answer to that question in just a minute. But real quick, this is actually a photo right here that I showed on our war summary a few days back when we covered the Romanian drone incident. And you can see here, there's the explosion in the distance, and we've also gotten official confirmation from the geo-confirmed community that this is indeed exactly where we thought it was. This is the river right here, which borders Romania, and over there is Romanian territory where you see the explosion happening. So it has been confirmed, which has forced Romania to stop lying about it and accept responsibility that the Russian drone did hit their territory, and they're not going to ignore it any longer. So moving on to our next post here, we have some video footage, and we see here in the post that says Romania acknowledges that the Russian drone crashed on its territory and NATO has been briefed. And we'll get to the NATO part here in just a minute. But as you can see in this footage here, we get an idea of the context of the explosion. And we can't really understand what she's saying. But here we can see the trees have been mangled. There's a large crater in the ground. It looks like there's been a lot of fire, probably burning the brush down around this area. So indeed, a drone has crashed here and caused some damage. Also, another notable thing, this area does not appear to be populated. It looks like it's probably in the woods or some kind of forest. So no civilians are likely involved in this unless they happen to be going through that exact spot of the woods at the unfortunate time the drone crashed, which is unlikely. But right now, it is no civilians involved, which changes things slightly. It makes it a little less serious, but not really, in my opinion. And moving on from that footage right there, let's go ahead and jump into our next post. And it says, for a second night straight, Russian drones are still striking the port of Renai and the city of Kilia, right next to the Romanian border. So Russia, even though they've been totally reckless, a drone has hit Romanian territory, which is a NATO country, by the way, that everybody knows by now, that they're just still going to attack the port of Renai, which is right there in the same spot where the accident occurred. So reckless on the part of Russia, no apology from Russia, nothing. They've gone totally silent about it, and they are still being absolutely reckless. So moving on to our next post here, we get an idea of what NATO's response might be. It says that NATO says it expresses solidarity with Romania after Russian drone debris reached its territory. And down here it says a very cautious response from NATO with no mention of Article 4 consultations like some predicted, and that NATO mentioned its efforts to strengthen deterrence on the Black Sea and Russian aggressive actions in this region, but nothing more. And obviously, good reporting on the part of Samuel Romani here. But one thing I do want to point out is Article 4 itself, which we'll get into in just a moment in the next post, is actually something that the NATO member state that is the victim, they have the right themselves to invoke that article and create a consultation with other members of NATO. That is something they have the right to do, so Romania can choose to call that up at will. It's not up to NATO to make that determination. They have to abide by their charter, which means Romania has the last say in the situation. So we don't know yet if Romania is going to do that, but we do have a clue in the next post. So moving on to this next one, this is actually something that we wrote earlier today about the entire situation. We think that it would not be unreasonable if Romania invoked NATO Article 4 over the Russian drone incident, because Article 4 can be invoked by any NATO member state, like I said earlier, and the article says, quote unquote, the parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of the parties is threatened. And in this specific instance with Romania, Romania's territorial integrity is at risk right now because they have been attacked by an enemy drone. Intentional or unintentional is kind of unimportant. It did happen. And Russia continues to attack right on the border, which is clearly reckless. So to us, or at least to me, I think Article 4 would be perfectly reasonable, and they should probably invoke that just to send a message to Russia that we take these things seriously, and we're not going to simply turn a blind eye when our own member states get attacked, basically, by an enemy. But leave your thoughts down in the comments below. I know this is a very contentious issue. I've seen it all over Twitter today. People have varying opinions about it all over the place, so feel free to let us know down in the comments below. We do read the comments, and I'd like to see what y'all think as well. And moving on to our next one here, we have one from Flash News Ukraine. It says the United States will allocate more than $1 billion to help Ukraine, and this was announced by the U.S. Secretary of State Blinken at a press conference with Ukrainian Foreign Minister Kuleba. And once again, $1 billion. That's a lot of aid going to Ukraine. It's good to see that the U.S. is still following up on their promise to assist Ukraine in any way possible. And it looks here like $665 million is going towards civilian security, and a little bit less, which we'll learn in the next post, is going to actual military aid. So, moving on to our next one here, we see that the United States will provide depleted uranium tank ammunition in the aid package, which is a big deal because Russia says that's basically sending nuclear weapons to Ukraine, which is obviously a farce. And it says here it's a part of a $175 million aid package. So the actual number of military aid is $175 million. It's not $1 billion, but still, that is no small amount. But it's a little deceiving, though, because if you look at the $1 billion figure and then you see the $175 million figure, you wonder where that discrepancy comes in. Well, it's just a matter of basically numbers games at this point. But $1 billion in aid overall is being sent. So good to see, and good to know that Ukraine is receiving the help it needs. So moving on to our next post here, we have one from Flash News Ukraine yet again, and we see that during the visit in Ukraine that Antony Blinken had while giving over the aid, he met Patron, the bomb-sniffing dog that has become an absolute celebrity, and there he is right there. As you can see, Patron is actually a pretty small dog. I want to say a beagle, but I don't know for certain, but obviously a big celebrity. He has his own cartoon now and everything, so very famous dog. And he's a celebrity in his own right, so it's probably a privilege to get to meet the little dog. But anyways, moving on from that funny post right there, we have one from Insider Paper. And it says, just in, U.S. military successfully launched a Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile. And as most of you probably know by now, this is one of our premier nuclear missile launching platforms, and we have successfully tested it. It does work, and we do have some footage of it on our Twitter page if you want to take a look at it yourself. Quite spectacular footage, by the way. And it's good to know that our systems work, even though Russia's don't. So we already have the advantage over Russia in case there was an incident where we need to protect our country with nuclear weapons. Hopefully that never happens, but we are ready. And moving on to our next post here, we have one from Clash Report. And this actually came out about a day or so ago. This is the Russian general Sergei Surovikin. He was seen walking in Moscow. I don't know if this is his girlfriend or wife or what they've got here with him, but you can see he's in pretty rough shape. He's wearing some pretty large sunglasses, probably trying to obscure his identity the best he can, and he's just walking down the street, kind of looking like a regular person now. He's no longer, looking like a Russian general, whatever those people look like when they're actually in their position. But as you can see here, he was removed from his post a while back after Wagner's rebellion. So this guy right here is in rough shape, probably awaiting a window, if I'm being perfectly honest. But for now, he's free to roam the streets of Moscow for whatever that's worth. And moving on to our next post here, we have one from Ukrainska Pravda in English. And it says, all information about Surovikin, the guy we just saw on the street, is removed from Russia's Defense Ministry website. And just like Russia does with everything like Wagner, etc., if they don't want you in their history books or something like that, they will simply eliminate you and erase you from it. And that's what they're doing with Surovikin right now and, preparing him for the window treatment. And with that, that is our last piece of news for the day. Got a pretty big bit of news coming out, but nothing really major. But if we get anything else in between now and when our war stream runs tonight, we'll be sure to report on it. And also, by the way, please press the like button, subscribe as well to the channel to get regular updates. And if you want, peep our Twitter page. We post stuff minute by minute over there. Our Twitter handle is @It'sTheEnforcer, and give us a follow over there. We're almost up to 12,000 followers, so big thanks for that as well. And we'll see you all tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on our nightly War News stream. Thank you all for watching, and bye-bye for now.